Welcome back, golfers, and today I am going to show you how to structure your practice session to make sure you are getting the best out of your time spent on the driving range. Something I get asked a lot: what do I do in practice, or how do I practice? Something I struggled with a lot when I was playing, not really having a structure of what to do when I'm at the driving range and how I get the best out of my time. So what I'm going to take you guys through is a 60 ball practice session, how I would split those 60 balls down to make sure we're getting the most out of the time that we're spending on the driving range. And this will be when you are typically making more of a technical swing change, right? So I'm going to talk you through what I'm working on in my golf swing. Each phase I would then run through in these 60 balls to kind of add a progression each time to be able, and then what I would look at and make sure I'm checking in on to make sure I'm doing the right things, okay? So initially, just always start with sort of 10 balls loosening up, right? And I'm just gonna, what I've got on the, firstly I'll explain what I've got on the ground here actually. I've got my setup kind of check-in, right? So I just got a very simple start line, okay, or target line with a yellow stick, a very simple ball position with the white one, and then the red one is the address plane line of the shaft, so where I want the shaft lean to be sitting at address, okay? So these are some checkpoints I'm checking in on at the moment. So the first 10 shots, I'm very much just getting set into this grid idea here, and just making sure that I've got the ball where I want it. And typically what I'm looking at here with a mid-iron would be somewhat sternum to left ear, kind of in this area here is acceptable for me. And I'm just making sure that I'm getting the shaft on the red stick, so I'm getting used to it visually. And I'd just be hitting shots where just no more than sort of like 80 yards, just little chip shots, getting my eye in on this. And just to give you a little bit of background, the reason I work on this is my setup can get quite sloppy. I can get way too far on the right hand side. I can get the handle back like this, and I start to add a lot of loft and it gets very weak and kind of just slappy strikes. So I use this to really help me shift the shaft lean. I do now feel that I get about 60% of my weight more on this lead side. That just stops me kind of moving off of the golf ball too much and just scabby strikes. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm just really checking in with this, and I'm just chipping some balls out. Like I said, no more than sort of 80 yards. This is just a feel based kind of thing, checking in with these things. And the second part to my practice is the finish position. And what I'm trying to do more of is make sure I finish by the time my right arm gets level to the ground, my hips are fully extended out of a flexed position. That just helps me get the club out of the ground, keeps the club face more under control for me, because when I stay flexed for too long, I start to kind of see this in the finish, and I lose control of the face, and the swing direction can get quite left. And I like to see, I'm trying to work back in a bit more of a stock draw into my game, so that extension helps me keep the club up in front of me for a bit longer rather than working it that way, so my swing direction can get a little bit off. Another thing all I'm doing here when monitoring is just monitoring start line. So again, wanting to draw it, I want to make sure that golf ball is starting to the right of my target every single time. And then I've got an idea, then it's simply just controlling the face angle really. If it's staying to the right, then it's obviously open. If it's overdrawing, then it's too shut. So just while I'm checking in on this stuff, I'm just making sure that that's doing that. And again, just really getting a feel and loosening up. So again, for me, it's shaft forward, weight a bit more forward, and just I'm trying to get more into this idea here. Right arm, hips fully extended, which helps me with my strike no end. And once I've warmed up, I'll start to put a camera down as well, and I'll check in on some of these points in a bit more detail. But just for now, just really getting a feel for a few things. Like I said, just spending 10 balls doing this. And you know, what I always like to start with setup, regardless of whether it's me or whether it's a client. There's a lot we can do from a setup point of view in building in a shot shape. So like I said, I want to build more of a draw back into my game. So if we can get the shaft more forward, the weight more forward a little bit, I'm pre-setting the direction of the swing and where I want to send the club. If I'm trying to draw the golf ball and I'm set up a little bit handle back, weight back, ball position maybe slightly even further forward, I'm pre-setting a swing, and you'll see this better from this angle here, of more across the golf ball. Okay, so it makes it very difficult to have to reorganize things and try and get it back to where they need to be. Whereas if I'm setting up this way, ultimately I'm pre-setting a lot of this stuff in. It makes it a lot easier. So I'll always spend a lot of time looking at how people are set up, how I'm set up, and does it match the intent of what I'm trying to do, basically. All right, so again, just little chippy shots, a couple more of these. Everything started right so far, so I know directionally I'm swinging in the right direction. The face is somewhat managed. So that's all I'm looking for on these for now. I'm just starting to feel a bit more loose and ready. Yeah. Okay, so first 10 balls very much just, like I said, under 80 yards, taking stock of what's going on, checking in on the things that I'm working on. For now, I'm going to change clubs. I had 9-iron there just to get going. I'm now going to move to 7-iron. And I'm going to start to add a little bit of intent. So I'm going to do exactly the same things, right? Same sort of check-ins. I'm now just going to add a bit more intent to these swings. The distance is now going to start to go up, but I'm going to then talk about what I'm going to do with length of swing and how we're going to focus there as well, rather than just lengthening things out to their maximum. Okay, so 7-iron now, so just moved up a little bit, and going to use the next 20 balls now to add a little bit of intent, okay? Not necessarily length in the swing. What I like to do is, and I like to train with people this way as well, is that get people to learn how to manage the golf swing from sort of left arm parallel in the backswing to right arm parallel in the downswing, and control what's going on with the club and the body to these points. So we're controlling face to path relationships, low point, and managing all these things really well. Can we control the movement from this phase with a little bit more intent? So whereas the first 10 balls was very much that same idea, but just nice and easy, I'm going to make the same sort of length swing now either side. So backswing's not going to get much past left arm parallel, and then downswing I'm still trying to stop in the follow through to right arm parallel, but I'm just adding a bit more intent. So let's call it 50%, right? Can I now at 50% do all the same things, set up well, pivot well, finish well, and manage those? Okay, and then this phase I'll start to introduce a camera as well, and I'll start to check in on these points as well as I'm starting to add intent, because this is ultimately where I'm going to start to see some things probably not get to where I want them to. So I want to check in on the camera. So same again, so making sure weight's a bit forward, shafts in line with the red stick, and just trying to control now at more of a 50%. So I actually felt that was a little bit heavy, that contact. So it kind of tells me there a little bit that I didn't extend enough and get further forward. So I'm just going to try and put a bit of emphasis on that. Ball started a bit further right. You can feel more extension of that. It's hard work for me, that. It feels really hard work. So used to staying flex for too long. And again, I'm still monitoring ball flight here, so I want to make sure everything's still starting to the right, and I'll be looking for the ball either to stay as a push or draw. I don't even mind the odd overdraw, because then I can just start to work the club face better. But I want everything starting right, on anything starting to the left. This phase is really important. This again, stressing the importance of trying to manage the golf swing at a certain length and not necessarily now having to lengthen things out. Add speed to this type of length before starting to add length to the golf swing and learn to control it. You'll find the strike and ball flight so much better. It's amazing because literally a couple of weeks ago I was hitting these horrible fades, but just all I've done is stay consistent on the check-ins and making sure these bases, all I'm focusing on is weight forward, handle forward, and I'm just focusing on getting then in that extended finish position. So ball started right, it actually stayed right, that one, which is fine. Like I said, that's just more, I now know the club face is matching that. So I'm okay with that in this phase. It's certainly not going to get me into any trouble really. Okay, and one more, and then I'm going to get the camera out and start to film a couple of things and just check in on it basically, just make sure I'm doing it correctly. Not the best strike, didn't quite get there, so I'm just going to stick the camera on and we'll check a couple of things now basically and see what's what. So again, just doing all the same stuff, 50% intent, and I just want to now get some on the camera to have a little check in on. Not the best strikes. It'll be interesting to see what I see there. I think pivot wasn't quite good, but we'll have a look at that. And on this note, by the way, it is super important when practicing to film your golf swing, when you're working on a technical change. So important, because otherwise you don't know what you're doing, right? You don't know if what you're changing is making a difference. But saying that, there has to be a structure and a system behind what you're looking for on the camera. So we're not now just looking for things for the sake of looking for things, right? I've got my clear system and checkpoints of what I need to check, and that's what I'm checking. I'm going to be checking, do I think the weight's forward enough? Do I think the shaft's appropriate? And do I think I'm extended into that finish position well enough? That's all I'm looking for. And if any of those are out, then I know I've got to do a couple of things a little bit better. All right, so important that you film your swing, but just don't pick at aesthetics. And I did that for years, and it was just not the right thing to do, right? Okay, so I'm going to check on the shaft lean. Let's have a look at that there. That's a really bad line. Let me redo that. Yep, happy with that. So shaft is somewhat on my left armpit. I've actually got the stick on the ground, probably a little bit too extreme, but what I'm looking for there is a shaft forward. I've actually got room to push that a little bit more, but left armpit would be an absolute worst I'm looking for there. Gonna just draw a line from the outside of my ankle, and actually I've not got my weight forward enough here. What I would want to see for me is that left hip's more up against that line, and that explains some of the heavier strikes that I had as I started to add speed. I haven't got things forward enough, so I'm probably going to see in the finish position, yeah, that the hips aren't forward enough. So basically what you can see here, I'm just going to get a squiggly line on, is that the hips are back of where I'd want them, of the knee. Okay, so if I use the left ankle as an example, again, I'd probably want to see just outside the left ankle, the hips just tucked up more against that. I'm just still a bit bent forward, and my upper body's back. And that explain it. That explain why I'm seeing those couple of those heavier strikes. I felt there as I started to add some speed. So now I'm just going to make sure my setup, I've got to feel that this left hip's a bit more over, which then is going to allow me to get them extended more on the way through. Because if I start back here, I've got a long way to go, right? So now I'm going to go back and just recheck in on those setup pieces, and I'm just going to work the extension now a little bit more. Okay. So I actually think I've got some room for the shaft lean, so I'm going to just push that just a little bit, and I've got to really feel for me that this left hip is more than what it needs to be. So I'm going to use this little checkpoint here that my butt of the club and the club head line up, everything's on that line. I think my hip would have been further back at that point. Just feeling a little bit of exaggeration, shaft lean as well. And then really feel like I'm pushing that belt buckle up. It's just hard work for me, that one. Okay, weight forward, more lean. Oh, definitely better strike. Now I'm probably going to expect, now I'd expect from a bull flight point of view that these are probably going to push more, because as I'm extending more, I'm likely to want to leave the face just a touch more open. But again, as long as they're all starting right, I don't really care, because I can work that back and I've got a predictable start line and miss. Okay, now all I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I'm really, for every shot, just a little bit of an exaggeration rehearsal to feel that a little bit more, because now I know where I've got to work. So it really feels like I'm forward, but I know I'm not that forward. Feels better. Again, not push shot, but I'm fine with this as long as they're not starting left. Don't really care. Another rehearsal. Just gonna make sure I don't come out my posture too much. So important that, just make sure, you know, when you practice, I see too many people just hit ball after ball after ball after ball, and not checking in on what they're trying to check in on, right? So firstly, you've got to have a camera to be able to do that, or some sort of source of feedback to do that, and then really making sure that you are spending time rehearsing these things and not just machine gunning the balls away. A bit more exaggeration on that, exaggeration on that. Didn't quite get that one. And also when you know, again, I think this is something important to stress of what I'm doing here. I'm trying to make a technical change, right? I'm trying to challenge my movement, my pattern, to change it, right? It is going to feel tough. The drills that I'm doing feel tough because it pushes me to areas that I'm not used to being. So drills should never feel easy. They should challenge you. They should challenge your movement. They should challenge the ball flight. They should challenge the strike. So don't be afraid for these things to challenge. I think people kind of do a drill, doesn't feel good, and go, I'm not doing that. The purpose of this practice session is to make a technical change. We're not trying to perform right now. Of course, I've got some performance indicators in terms of making sure the golf ball starts to the right every single time, and make sure I'm getting my setup and this idea right every single time. The outcome in terms of the ball flight is what I'm looking for, right? The start line. Okay, if I don't flush it every single time, it's fine. But I want the drills to challenge me, and I want to be able to push it to a point. So especially in technical practice sessions, they should. When we're looking at just performing, that's a different type of session. Yeah, definitely didn't get forward enough there. So you'll notice as well, like I've got a really good idea and a solution for what each one of these things means and what I haven't done enough of. So if I start to see certain strikes, so again, that's like ground first for me, is I know I haven't gone that way enough, so I can look at address and then look at how I've moved. I don't think I had the hip forward enough there, that last one. Yep, that was really good. So I just felt so much more on that left hip forward. I could feel that the one before definitely wasn't forward enough after that one. So now I've fixed the strike. That tells me that, right, I've got to feel so much more than what I'm used to. Because again, my default was like back here somewhere. So I'm having to move this quite a long way. It feels like it anyway. just overturned that one actually. It's the first one that's missed left. So that tells me straight away that I definitely didn't extend enough or well enough, because the club face would have done a bit of this. It started straight and it's gone left. So I know I've pull drawed that from that release there. Yep, managed to manage that one better. Okay, so got 6 balls left in this station, so I'm just gonna recheck what I was talking about there and just gonna put the camera back out and just make sure I've done all these pieces enough, see if I've actually made any progress. All right, so camera's rolling. Let's exaggerate this hip, exaggerate the shaft. Come on, good extension. Hit another one, I don't think that was that good. So we'll check both of those. See if there's a difference. Felt setup was good. Just didn't feel like I got the extension as good. Right, left hip. Setup feels good. Overturn the target, that one, so I definitely think that's not going to be as good. One more. Come on. That was better. That was better. Right, let's see if I've done my job. So this is going to emphasise the importance of filming the golf swing, because although I might have put my weight a bit more forward, what I've actually done is I've also actually tilted my spine a bit too far back to what I would like. So I've added some more degree of tilt away from the target, which again would explain why I hit some of those in that phase a little bit heavier than I have done, because my upper centre has moved back. So I'm going to jump straight back in and redo that video now I've seen that, because straight away I've added too much tilt, which is not what I want to do. So I've moved my weight forward a little bit, but I've also gone back this way, which not what I wanted to do. And you can see the difference in the tilts of the spine there. I've got the yellow lines to highlight it. So I need to get back to more of a neutral spine and shift that weight better. Okay, so we're jumping back in. So what I was saying there is, although I'd move my weight forward, I'd also tilted my spine too much, which explains why I felt I got a couple of those heavy ones, because my upper centre was too far back. So I need to do a better job of moving my hip over, but not tilting the spine too much. So I'm going to feel more of the weight over that side, but make sure my spine stays relatively neutral. And that's now a little bit of a different feel as well, and see if I can get this finish position better. Yep, so much better instantly. So much better. I felt strike was so much better there. So let's check that one now. So setup has shifted, which is good. So talked about in the first video how that gap I didn't want to see that. So I knew my hips were too far back. Now you can see that's all shut off on that bottom video. Left hip's up against that yellow line, which is really good. So done the job there, and obviously from the checking on the camera, my spine tilt is pretty much the same. I've not tilted my spine too much now, so managed to keep that. So just again, I've got to reiterate this, that the importance of filming swings and taking your time in sessions and looking at what is it you're looking at. Make sure you've got 2 or 3 really key focuses to check in on, because otherwise you just don't know what's going on. And that was a perfect example. If I'm not filming, I don't know that I couldn't feel that too much. I genuinely couldn't. But you see it on the camera straight away. I was like, wow, that's shifted. So I'd gone that way and that way, rather than getting my hip across, but keeping the spine somewhat neutral, so I hadn't added too much bend, which I don't want to do for an iron shot really. So super, super important, guys, okay? Now let's have a look at the finish position. Let's roll this through. Yeah, much better. hips are so much further forward at that point there. You can see my head and my chest has turned more as well, facing target, which gives me a good indication that they have extended more, which has allowed me to basically turn more. So these hips continuing to slide and extend have allowed my head and chest to turn more. Again, the more these stay down, the less I can turn, and the more I get the throwaway. If I now just start to extend, I've got so much more room to turn there and not fall over. But that is so much better. So much better. So starting to feel that change now, and how much I've got to feel the hips going, and obviously what I've got to do now to feel this. So got a couple more balls left in this phase, so I'm just going to hit a couple more now, just at 50%. I know I've got the checkpoints right, so I'm just going to reiterate those now. Yeah, it makes such a difference instantly to strike that, having those positions correctly. So last one at like 50%. So weight forwards. I feel like this is more. Yep. And really happy with the predictability I've started to create here with the strike as well, or the ball flight, sorry. I've had 2 that have overturned the target, I think, in this session. So quick indication of what I've done. But more importantly, I'm starting to get some predictability of where the ball's going. And now I can start to add some speed onto that. So what we're now going to do in these next 20 balls is going to basically add some speed to this length of golf swing, right? So I'm going to do my best to try and stop somewhat here. I'm going to probably see some things overrun a little bit now because of the momentum of the rest of the swing and the finish. But I'm going to move this up to like 70 to 75% now and see if I can start to keep hold of the same basics. And I'm now going to start to see how this translates into obviously the ball flight, making sure they're still starting to the right. I've got predictable curves going on. So just checking in on with a bit more speed, making sure I can still do the same thing. Again, I don't want to, what I like to see is golfers get really good at controlling the swing from here to here and what goes on, rather than necessarily lengthening things out too much and making it much, much harder for themselves. When you then get on the golf course, obviously you're just playing golf, but here on the range, can we control what's going on from here to here, create predictable strikes and direction and curves? Okay, so I'm going to move into the next phase now, and I'm going to keep the same club for this bit, and I'll move into a different club for the last 10 balls. But now just adding a bit of intent, like I said, 70-75%, checking in on the same things, and just starting to see if I can add a bit more speed to these things. Still want to check in my rehearsals, still make sure I've got the good feelings, good reference points with all of this. So that one overturned the target. I've started 2 straights through and gone left. So as I've started to add speed, you can see some of the tendencies start to come back in straight away. So I've just got to be stronger on some of these things through the golf ball with what I'm working on to help manage the face. Better, much better. And that's the important thing there. And you've seen that, like, started too straight, gone left. I know the face is too close to the target in terms of where it's point of impact, and I know the direction of swing has probably got closer to 0 because of where it's then curved. So that there, I had to make sure I felt that extension was better, which basically moved the sweet spot out to the golf ball for longer. All right, and then the face was more open relative to target, so it started a bit more right for me. All these things have to have a link back to ball flight. Have to. Can't be any other way. Nice shot that, like that. So we'll definitely see on the, I'm going to be getting closer to creeping back to my natural feeling, should we say. So I'm going to be closer to kind of seeing some of this as I start to add speed, because obviously I've not done it enough. This is a relatively new feeling for me, but that's why, again, I'm going to stress is get good at speed to this. So I learn to get really good at these movements to this point, and then the rest of it's just the speed unloading through the golf swing. If I start to get sloppy on where the club and I am at this point, I'll just get way back into my old habits. So again, I'm just learning to add speed to a more controlled golf swing. That was a better movement through there. I felt that one straight away. And coincidentally, ball was good. Just gonna check in with that again. So easy, I've just done it myself. Hit like 2 or 3 balls there. I've not really checked in with the rehearsal. It's so easy to not do, but you've got to come back to that before you hit another ball. Just really take your time. The more reps you do of it, the more it's going to feel comfortable. Didn't pivot very well there. I got away. I mean, I've mishit that, but it's curved the way I wanted it to curve. So, okay, I've misstruck it. It would have been 10 yards short of the green, but not too bad as a bad one. It was a bit, felt myself a bit over there that time. Didn't extend very, in fact, look, where I finished, didn't extend very well there at all. Ball's overturned the target, which I'd have expected it to do. The face is just shut down. It's not changed relative to the path, but it's just started at 2 left and it's just then pulled drawed. So again, little check in. And you can just see, as I said, as I start to move into bigger swings, I just start to creep a little bit into my old tendencies. It's fine. Come on. That's better. Straight away, as soon as I get that extension, my swing direction moves so much better. So much better. Be interested to hear you guys how you practice. Is this something you've done before? What do you tend to do when you go to the driving range? I was massively the guy that just 100 balls, could be 200 balls, and just hit, walk away with probably more swing thoughts than I came in with. So this is something that I'll get a lot of people to do, and something that's really helped me. Just keep a clear focus. Everything's starting right and drawing. Now, obviously today we're just talking about like a technical practice session, right? It's what you do to change something technically. How you would practice more performance-based would be slightly different. And I'll do some stuff on that in the future for you guys, depending on, you can talk about periodization, so when to practice at what point and what things you're practicing. But today we're specifically talking about making a swing change. Nearly forgot it then as well, didn't check in with myself. Hung out there a little bit, so I know the face was just too close to the path, but certainly not going to try and do too much different with that, because that's in my world of missed shots that I'm accepting. When I'm drawing the golf ball, I want it to either push or I want it to curve back. If it overturns a target a fraction, we can kind of deal with that, but we don't want too many that overturn. I'd want a less percentage that are going to overturn. I want more that are going to stay out towards the right hand side and not overturn the target. That's, that's also another important thing. There has to be an acceptance of a miss pattern. So if you fade it, obviously you're going to be starting the golf ball left. You're probably going to expect to see some pull shots, and then hopefully not shots that overturn the target too much to the right hand side as a right-handed golfer. That was so good. That was proper. That was really good. That would have been so good through that phase visually. Felt like my hips were bloody going out the sockets over there somewhere, but stay in posture. Yes, done it again, really good. When I get this right, the flights launch so much higher as well. The peak launch is much higher, draws much softer. So that's kind of an indicator to me that I'm on the right tracks when I see that. So you'll see a couple of times I've stressed staying in posture doing this, because ultimately what we're trying to blend on the way down is pieces of standing up, okay, extending, but you've got to make sure that the tilts also replace that, so we don't kind of just stand up and come out of posture. Early extend is what people would call it, right? If I just try to extend, I'm just going to stand up this way. So I've got to blend the extending with making sure that I'm sliding the hips and tilting to the right. So that's me feeling like I'm staying in posture. And you see from down the line, I've maintained my spine angle at this point. If I've just extended too much, I'll start to stand up and my head will come away from where it started, for example. So I've lost my posture. So that's why just a couple of times every now and again I've stressed the staying in posture to myself, because I know, because I'm working on extension, it's easy to then start to stand up and get the head moving away from where it started. So I like to see a stable head. So I've got to make sure I stay in my inclinations to the ground, okay, through that phase, and then past that point it will start to come up. But that's just a checkpoint for me to make sure I don't extend too much or too early. Another slight push, but again, my world right now, that's exactly what I want to be seeing, because from a course management point of view, I'm probably aiming accordingly, or hopefully aiming accordingly and aiming the face accordingly, to where if I do hit a push shot, it's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. Posture, there, that's it. Yeah, another really good one, so much higher flight again. Love that. Okay, we've got a few more balls now, and I'm just gonna, one more, and I'm gonna check in with the camera again at more speed and see if I've managed to keep things somewhat the way I want them. And I've not checked in with the camera too much in this phase personally right now, just simply because I feel like actually I've got a good idea of what's going on and what I'm seeing. There'll be some days where I'll see some stuff and I'll be like, oh, I don't know what's going on there, so I might check the camera more and more. But I've felt in the last 10 shots or so, I've had a pretty good idea of what's gone on, and I've been able to fix it pretty much straight away when I've seen a different flight. Okay, camera's rolling. Let's check in on this at a bit more speed. That doesn't feel right there at all. Overturned the target, so definitely wouldn't have been good enough. Let's stress that a little bit more. Strike felt really good actually, it just started too straight. falling pretty much on target. A couple of yards left. Let's check that though, because I want to see what's going on at speed. So we'll see what's going on with that one. Okay, so let's look at this now, right? Let's see what has changed at speed. And I've got the 50% swing up on top there as well to have a little comparison. Now, setup as I'd have expected has stayed the same. I wouldn't have expected my setup to shift too much just because I'm adding speed. So good job with that. Let's have a look at what starts to happen through the golf ball. Oh, a little bit quick. Yeah, you can say, and at speed, you start to see that, and this is, I said about the overtaking the target a little bit. You kind of see how that right hand's starting to move more on top. Club face is shutting down a touch, so that's why it started a little left. I'm just going to bring the other one back a little bit, so I can, yeah, the release has just started to happen a little early. Legs have straightened a bit too early, but you'll see the difference here in that there. Much more extension of the top one. Not a bad job actually. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not actually a bad job. So I'm holding on to that well. You can just see the right hand just start to roll a little bit because of the hips haven't extended enough, but I'm actually pretty happy with that. And again, it's what I'd expect to see when you start to add more speed, get closer to the tendencies, but managing to hold on to the bits that I'm trying to hold on to. So better setup, better extension through the golf ball with the hips, and staying in my posture. And ball flight's telling me I'm doing a good job, right? I've only overturned the target 4 times in 50 odd balls. So ball flight's telling me that I'm doing a good job. Everything's starting right, everything's drawing. A couple of push shots, which I'm happy with. So it always has to be linked back to that. So I could feel really comfortable going out on the golf course with some of these sort of feelings, knowing that actually I know where the ball's going to start and roughly how it's going to curve each time. So I've got some solid feedback. So I've got a couple more balls now in this station, and then we'll move into the final section, and I'll show you what we would do with the last 10 balls. Cool. Okay, so we're on to the last 10 balls now, the last part of the practice session, and there's a couple of different ways you can mix this up, but what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to pick some different clubs, and I'm going to go onto the longer end of the spectrum. So I've got 4-iron, 6-iron, and my 2 hybrid here, and you'll notice I've taken away the alignment sticks now, and I'm just going to start to hit each of these clubs. I'm going to start to hit towards some different targets, just to mix things up a little bit, just change my intent so it gets a little bit more freewheeling and closer to the golf course environment here. But I'm still monitoring the same stuff. I want to make sure my setup feels good, and then I'm going to monitor the start line and the curve of the golf ball to each one of those targets. No measurement in terms of performance on this. It's just simply to finish the session on a few different clubs and a few different targets to move away from such a rigid base and check in. Like I said, you could go the opposite end of this. You could just do your wedges if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. But I want to just test myself at the longer end. So I'm going to do a bit of that. So we'll start with some hybrids. I'm just going to whack sort of 3 or so with a hybrid, and there's a flag out in front of me on the left-hand side up there, and I'm just going to use that as a target line. And again, I'm just going to make sure I'm feeling all the same things, but just being a little bit more freewheeling into normal swing and not focusing so much on trying to stop here. Try to feel this, but not focusing so much on trying to stop there now. This is more normal golf course swing, should we say. Shaper wanted, a little bit overturned. So again, I know that would be a little bit more, a little bit early, so didn't extend enough. So I'm just going to put a little bit of exaggeration into the extend this time to support the face. Yep, that's more into the shot I'd want to see. A bit of a push, so changed it just a fraction too much. Okay, I'm just going to change target now a little bit to mix it up. And go. There's a red flag just more to the right hand side. I'm just going to move at that. Again, so just to get me used to, because obviously the mats can be quite, well, they are square, right? So they kind of box you in a little bit. It's really easy to get yourself aligned. So it's good practice aiming across mats a little bit, just like we have to do on the golf course to get used to aiming the face in certain directions and shifting where you are. A bit toey, but it's done what I wanted it to do. Overturned a little bit. Now, for me, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but I'm really happy aiming left across things, like across a mat. I really struggle aiming right on a mat to a right-hand target. It's mad. I don't know why. I don't know if anyone else suffers with that. When I speak to people, some people do. So when I'm practicing, and this would be the same on the golf course, I struggle aiming right at stuff, but really good at aiming left at stuff. So I'll try and practice as many targets as I can when I'm in a performance state or this state, that where I have to aim right across the mat, so I can get used to the visuals. So it's a good little bit of practice. Again, slight push on that target line, but really good strike. So happy with what's going on with start line and curve here. Let's mix it up. Let's go down to 6 iron. And I'm going to keep in the same theme. I'm going to keep aiming right because it actually feels a little bit uncomfortable today. So I'm going to just try and finish the session off with aiming a bit more right. Across stuff. It just feels so weird for some reason. Whoever just hit that from the driving range perhaps needs to give me a shout, because that was a shank from the the main range. They need to learn how to not find the heel. I'll go and drop the card down in a minute. I'm going to go same target. Ball flight was good there. Actually, again, started slightly left. And this is the thing I see from when I aim right, I tend to want to start it more left. I just got to get that out of the habits and make sure I keep the face more under control. That's better. That's better. Just mad, these little things you start to like find out about yourself when you're practicing, and the feel I have to have on those target lines is I have to work to this side, the extension of the face so much more, because I just, for whatever reason, I just want to get it that way when I feel like I'm aiming right. There's obviously some past trauma in there somewhere. Okay, same target, last one with a 6 iron. That was really good. That was better. Okay, last 3, 4 iron. I'm going to go 1 left, 1 straight, 1 right. This time, completely mix up the targets. Okay, there's a gate over there on the left-hand side that I can't reach, so we're going to go at that until I drop it in someone's soft top. Yeah, it's good. Like that, just feel it's just strange. I'd be so interested to see if anyone else has this, but like I just feel so comfortable aiming left. I feel like I know where the face is, I know where I am. So I have to aim right. I have to fight it. Okay, straight down the middle. Obviously, this feels the easiest because the mat's here for me. I wanted to creep back then massively. Come on, keep that there. Nice, right, last one, finish the session. I'm not a believer in you have to hit a good one on the last one either, by the way. That's a bit of a myth, I think. I think it's how you want to frame that one, but if I mishit it, I mishit it. Could be there all day sometimes if you're having a bad day. I'm sure we've all been there on that one. So that shaft's good. First one I've pulled left and started left. Started left and finished left. That's the one I get when I aim across targets. So I know that for me I need to work harder at that. I think at setup I start to want to toe the face in and just I don't like it for some reason. So that's the first one that started left and gone left. So good practice session. But there you go, guys. An example of how I would structure a 60 ball practice session from a technical point of view if you're looking to make a swing change. Hopefully this helps you guys structure your practice going forward and make the best use of your time on the range rather than feeling like you get there and you're just aimlessly hitting golf balls. So remember, start off with some chips, check in on whatever it is you need to check in on. Start then doing the same thing at sort of like a 50%. So you just add intent to that same length. Then you move closer to a 75%, still checking in on the same things, whatever it is you're checking in on. Make sure you use a camera or some source of feedback to help you understand if you're doing what you need to do correctly or not. And then finish the session on a bit of a free-for-all. Like I said, it can be anything. I just went for the long end of the bag today. You can go down to wedges, you can do driver, it doesn't matter. Use that last 10 balls as a bit of a, right, done my work, I'm just gonna hit some shots and enjoy that last few balls. But if anyone's got any questions on that, I'd be really interested to hear your guys' practice stories, what you struggle with, what you need help with. I'm more than happy to help, so please comment below. If you like this video and you want to see more, then please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel because it honestly means the world and it helps me be able to create more content to help you guys play better golf. See you soon.